work hard for what you want in life. You work hard.
Hey, happy Friday. I'm getting ready to record Monday's episode of the Blessed and Bossed Up podcast. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to come on here and kind of show you guys what goes into doing a podcast. As you guys know, if you've been following the show, Blessed and Bossed Up has been growing tremendously, growing in listenerships, growing in sponsors. And so the preparation for the episode now is a little bit different. And it takes actually a little bit more time, a lot more time than it used to, because I have to not only prepare what I'm going to say, but I have to make sure that everything is meeting the needs of our advertisers. So what I do is I usually turn on some praise and worship music. I'm not going to play it now because I don't want any issues with like copyright or anything like that, but I play some praise and worship music. I pray, ask God to really lead me. Actually, yesterday I got the title for what today's episode was going to be. And so today I was building out my notes and what I was going to talk about. And so yeah, it's pretty much what I do. So I have like my notes here where I have everything I'm going to say. And then after I get the content for the show, then I go to make sure I'm meeting obligations for advertisers. So right now, I go into my account and I check to see if we have any ads. And so for this episode, we have 3 ads. So just a little quick way this works, sponsors buy shows in slots. So we have slot 1, slot 2, and slot 3. Slot 1 usually happens within the first 10 to 15 minutes of the show. Slot 2 happens about midway point through the show. And then slot 3 is at the end of the show while there's still about 10 minutes of show left. So we have a sponsor for each slot. So we're jam-packed with sponsors for this show, and I'm excited because we have some really, really awesome sponsors. But yeah, that's pretty much what goes into preparations. I'm going to do the live reads for the sponsors a little bit later. Right now, I really want to get the bulk of the content done, and then look at my nails, y'all. I gotta go get these nails did. Look at that. A mess. But if I don't have enough time to do it now, then I'm gonna go get these fixed because your girl got an appointment at 10 and I can't go into the weekend looking like this, okay? Megan said we having a hot girl summer. I'm playing. Y'all gonna get me like, how she love Jesus and talking about hot girl summers. I'm married, ain't no hot girl summers. I'm joking. But anyway, so I'm about to record the episode. Okay, so I figured I will show you guys my computer so you can see what it looks like when recording an episode. So this is GarageBand, and with GarageBand is where I record the show. So this is last week's episode is like still loaded in. So I'm going to go in. I keep the same template for all episodes because it's just easier. So this is our intro right here. This was part 1 of last week's episode. I'm going to delete that out. This is an ad from last week. I'm going to delete that out because advertisers get live reads. So what that means is I'm supposed to record a new one each time. So the information might be the same, but they want a fresh perspective every time. So I'm going to delete the ads I've already done. Actually, I'm going to keep this one in here. And then I answer questions. I'm going to delete that. And then at the top, I have the Blessed and Bossed Up Society pre-roll, and that's the ad for my membership community. If you've taken my podcast course, and if you haven't, you can click the link in the description. In the podcast course, I'll talk about there's 2 ways to monetize podcasts. One is through advertising. Advertisers usually look for your show to be at the 10,000 or so listens per episode. So if you haven't gotten to that threshold yet, in my opinion, the best way to start monetizing from day one, and even if you have reached that threshold, I believe the best way to advertise or to make money from your podcast is by funneling people into your own business. Because if you think about it, you're talking every week. You are building up that know you, like you, trust you factor with your audience. And so it's a perfect opportunity to present whatever it is that you're offering. So whether it be you're selling your book, or you have a coaching program, or you have products, whatever it may be, using your show as this evergreen marketing material is always a good idea. But yeah, two ways you get paid is through advertisers and through funneling shows, funneling your audience members into your business. And it's so important that you have a good sales funnel or good strategy behind funneling people into your business. Because the thing about podcasts, and the only con that I see with podcasts, is that you have this huge audience, right? So let's say you're reaching hundreds of thousands of people a month. There's no inventory or no lists of the information of the people that you're reaching, right? So you have, in essence, all of these ears, but you don't even know how to communicate with them outside the show. You don't have an email address. You don't follow them on social media. Like, you have to do work to take people from being passive listeners to engaged listeners. So I suggest you take my course, because I go into more detail on that. Or if you want to join my podcasting program, it's more information below. Find Your Voice Academy is the program that my media company, Anchored Media, has for new and aspiring podcasters. And so we work with people to develop and get successful shows. And we define success two ways: one, success and impact, and two, success and income. So we don't want you to be talking every week for free for too much longer, right? So all the information is in the description. So go ahead, click whatever it is you need. But let's get back to recording the show. Oops. All right, so I'm going to check to make sure that my microphone that I'm using is the one that is here. So, okay, so USB microphone, great. Built-in output, great. I'm going to add another track, and this is where I will record. And because we have so many sponsors, and sometimes I stop and go with podcasts and episodes, and I end up with all of these different tracks. That's what these are called over here, tracks. I name them. Okay, so let me test my mic. I'm gonna mute that. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, everything sounds great. So I'm gonna delete that and we're gonna get started. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Blessed and Bossed Up podcast. I'm really excited about today's episode because yesterday when I was praying, God gave me the subject for today's episode. But as I was here this morning, just listening to my praise and worship music, and I want to check the sound on that. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Blessed and Bossed Up podcast. I'm really excited about today's episode because yesterday when I was praying, God gave me the subject for today's episode. But as I was here this morning, just listening to my praise and worship music and praying and just seeking God on behalf of like the topics or the subject matter, because I had the title, I knew what the show was going to be about, but I was like, okay, God, but what do you have me to say? And when I tell you that he gave me a prophetic word to share with you guys, I'm really not even going to spend too much time running my mouth, but I'm really going to just read that, because as I was writing it, like my handwriting is crazy. If I show y'all the difference, like if you see my notes right now, the top of it is like my handwriting. So I'm writing out like, okay, we have ads in today's episode, so don't forget to record those. Here are the church announcements, things I want to remind people about. And so my handwriting is pretty decent up there. But then once we get down to the prophetic word, it's like straight chicken scratch, because I could not keep up. My hand couldn't keep up with all God was downloading to me. So I'm definitely going to read that after I get done, before going into answering a question. But I want to remind you guys, this month we start the God is My CEO tour. So June 30th, I'm going to be in Dallas. Myself and Kavaya of the She Who Is Called mobile app, we're going to be in Dallas. You can get your tickets at godismyceotour.com. If you need a payment plan, we have payment plan options available. Get a VIP ticket because we are doing dinner after the event with everybody who signed up for VIP. And somebody asked me this, so I want to clarify. Dinner is included in the VIP ticket. So when you get a VIP ticket, you come, you enjoy the event, we go out to eat, and you don't have to spend any extra money. Okay, the ticket takes care of everything. So definitely go to godismyceotour.com to get your tickets. It's going to be an amazing event. ATL, we're coming there next, and y'all, I'm just hyped. So get your tickets. They're selling quickly. And like I've been telling you for the last few months, this event is going to sell out in Jesus' name. So y'all better go ahead and get them tickets. Also, you guys, follow me on Instagram at Tatum Tamia. I've been sharing a lot more in my stories just about my day-to-day. For you guys that follow me on the gram, you saw that I moved into my office space this week. So I'm really excited about that because it's a milestone for me. I've been working my business. I've been in entrepreneurship for how long? I got started in 2015. My business on paper was formed in 2015. So it's about 4 years of just being on this entrepreneurial journey and figuring things out. But this whole time I've been doing it at home, at the kitchen table. But I realized just recently, for me to move into the level, or for me to become the executive that God's vision needs, I needed to be a lot more productive. And one of the things that was hindering my productivity was my environment. I was too comfortable at home. I might be chilling. I might watch something on TV while I'm working, and then I get distracted, and I might get sleepy, and I can just go take a nap because my room is right there. I just outgrew that. So I had to get this space, and it's been amazing, to have somewhere I can just come, close the door, get to work. And then when I leave and close the door, I'm done. I'm at home. I'm spending time with my husband, and we're able to have a good time, and I'm not opening my laptop just because it's there. So far so good, but I'm just really excited about the space. And so yeah, follow me on Instagram because I'm just excited about the space. So follow me on Instagram because I've been sharing a lot about the day-to-day. I've been cracking a lot of jokes on Instagram, so y'all see a lot more of my very sarcastic and trash talking personality. But yeah, follow your girl on the gram. And y'all know I'm trying to get to 10K so I can swipe up. So go ahead and follow me. I'm almost there. Before we get into the heavy topic, I gotta tell you, I gotta congratulate my favorite rapper of all time, my favorite business person of all time, Sean Corey Carter. Any podcasters out there, never forget to turn your computer on mute, because I'm pretty sure that's my husband G-chatting me on Google Messenger, messing things up. Okay, let's get back to the show. I'm Sean Corey Carter. Follow me, I'm almost there. Before we get into the heavy topic, I gotta tell you, I gotta congratulate my favorite rapper of all time, my favorite business person of all time, Sean Corey Carter. He crossed that billionaire threshold and the first hip-hop artist to become a billionaire. A lot of people thought that Dr. Dre was the first one, but Dr. Dre sold his company for $4 billion, I think, but his net worth is still around the 800,000. So Jay-Z is conservatively worth $1 billion, and I could go on and dissect the blueprint, because a reason why I'm a Jay-Z fan is because he literally leaves a blueprint. Like all of this stuff that, if you read the Forbes article, all of the things that he's done to accumulate this level of wealth, he's rapped about, he's talked about. Like I always say that I was raised on Jay-Z lyrics because I remember the life lessons that my dad used to give me. I would listen, when I got older, I would listen to a Jay-Z record and I'd be like, dang, he got that from Hov. I remember I got into a fight in school. It was like an argument or whatever, and so they called us called home or whatever, the school called home, and so my dad was like, And I was like, it wasn't me. She was doing this, that, and the other. And I was just responding or whatever. And he was like, you don't need to argue with a fool, because if somebody is looking at you, they're not going to be able to tell who the fool is because you look just like them. I get older and I listen to a Jay-Z song and he's like, don't argue with a fool because from a distance, people can't tell who's the line. I was like, oh, my father tried it. But ever since I started listening to him, I just realized a lot of the gems that he's dropped. And one of the things I respect about him is that he's excellent. Like, he's the best. First of all, he's the best rapper. Let's take away everything else. He's the best rapper of all time, in my opinion. And so not only is he excellent at his craft, he's used that to build wealth. He's used the consumer, the things he sells to the consumer. He's learned what his consumer likes, right? So all of the hip hop heads, they like alcohol. They like this certain lifestyle. So he capitalized off of that and owned companies that appeal to that lifestyle, from the champagne, from Douce. And then he started noticing other things and getting into them. I could go on and on about Jay-Z and the blueprint, pun intended, that he's left and that he continues to leave as he makes more music, because he don't do interviews like that. So you really have to if you want to learn, you got to listen to his music, even with art. Like, just learning. He talked about, I think it was in 444, about how he bought this painting for $1 million. A few years later, it's worth $3 million. So I personally be taking notes, like, oh, bet. So when I get to a certain point where I can make these type of financial investments, let me invest in art. Let me spend the money on a Basquiat painting and not the little cheap one from Home Goods, because I'll be able to then leave that painting that I bought for my children. So I'm a student of Sean Corey Carter, and I'm just hyped that he crossed that billionaire threshold. And I'll save the rest of my excitement for my group chats because this is not what the podcast is for. But I just had to say shout out to the greatest of all time. A painting that I bought for my children. So I'm a student of Sean, but for my children. So I'm a student of Sean Corey Carter, and I'll save everything else for my group chats, because y'all like, Tatum, we don't care. Get to preaching. Get to this prophetic word you was talking about. But yeah, so the title of today's episode is Mirror. And this is something that God had to deal with me on this week, because I'm the type of person that is, I guess the best way I could say it is I'm very unbothered with anything that I do. Like, I might have pockets of excitement, like, let's say this office space, right? I had a pocket of excitement, like, oh my gosh, this is such a blessing, I'm so happy. But I quickly got over it, because then I went straight to, all right, well, you need to make sure that you seeing a return on investment for this place, because when BJ is looking at them books, he gonna be like, Tatum, it was cool, it was cute, everything was nice, but pack it up, because the return ain't there. So I'm focusing then on how can I increase my productivity so that I can increase my bottom line and justify the decision that I made. So for me, that's just a small example, but for me, with a lot of things, the decision that I made. So for me, that's a small example, but for me, it just shows that I really don't get caught up in pretty much anything, especially the things that I do. And so it's a good thing, because it allows me to stay humble. It allows me to stay focused, because worried about the bottom line is a very real thing that I need to do. But I don't need to be that way to the extent of I'm not internalizing, make sure I say it right, I'm not internalizing what God is doing in my life and who God has called me to be. And I think for me, for most of my life, I've always wanted to be regular. And this week I've been having these different conversations, and God has really been speaking to me through other people about the magnitude of who I am. And like I said, I've always wanted to be regular. I've always wanted to be rich and regular, rich and behind the scenes. I wanted to have a lot of money, but not really have to deal with people or be in front of people in any way. But just looking at how God is expanding my territory, I'm not going to say it's scary, but it's something that I have to make a decision to continue to walk in. You know, we always like to hear people come to us and say, there's this huge call in your life. God is going to do some amazing things in your life. But you don't think about who you have to become in order to handle the things that God has for you. And so this week, I really had a lesson. God really had to deal with me on, it's time for me to start walking in who I am, not who I aspire to be, not who I desire to be, but who I am. Jeremiah 1:5 says, before he formed me in my mother's womb, he knew me. So everything that the plans that God has for me and the things that I'm walking in now and the things that I will walk in that I have yet to see, all of those things are who I am. But for some reason, I've kind of just been in, I'm not going to call it a state of denial, but a state of not really want to accept what that means, because with great platforms comes great responsibility, right? So I had a situation this week as well where somebody was offended or bothered by something that I did. I didn't do anything that was like overtly negative or anything that's like a sin or something that will make y'all look at me like, I can't believe you. I didn't do anything like that, but it offended this person. And honestly, when they told me they were offended, I kind of was like, okay. Like, I was irritated by it because I was like, I mean, that's really not, one, you misinterpreted what I was doing. Two, it's really not that big of a deal. Like, whatever. My feelings, my flesh was kind of like whatever about it. But it's because I was irritated. I allowed my feelings to kind of mask what the lesson that God was trying to show me. But the lesson he was trying to share with me was what you do and say is important. So don't take that lightly. You know, me just out here being Tatum, because of the platform that he has put me on and the things that he is calling me to do and the nations that he is sending to me, I have to be mindful of how what I do may impact everybody. And I gotta be honest with y'all, that's a sense of responsibility I don't want and I never wanted. But again, I have to ask myself, but when I say yes to God, that didn't just mean saying yes as far as starting certain businesses or what my brand was going to look like or how I was going to move moving forward. I didn't just say yes to those things. I say yes to the responsibility that comes along with that as well. The fact that I can't go in everywhere, the fact that I can't say whatever I want to say, the fact that I can't just be who I've always wanted to be. Now I have to become and really step into and walk into the person that God has called me to be. Another situation that happened this week was somebody dealt with me. I was in an environment that honestly it was messy, and I was kind of in a place where I was like, well, I'm about to just mind my business. You know, this stuff ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm just here to do what I'm supposed to do, and that's that. Like, not really even. I wasn't involved in any mess, but there were a lot of things that go against involved, but there were a lot of things that I shouldn't have let slide. And it's funny because a few months ago when I was at a conference, there was a prophet there and he told me basically that I let too much slide. So he was saying, like, if you really loved yourself, then you wouldn't take no mess. He was saying you don't take a lot of mess now, but if you really learn to love yourself, which I later interpreted as if I really walked in the fullness and really became who God has told me I am and has continuously confirmed that I am, then I wouldn't put up with a lot of things that I do. So being in this environment and me and this girl was texting about it, and she was like, and she just asked me a simple question. I answered like, yeah, this is going on. It's crazy. It's a mess or whatever. And she was like, are you okay with that? And I was like, oh crap. It really hit me, and I knew it was God speaking to me through her, because I had to ask myself that, are you okay with that? Do you not understand what your presence means? Your presence means that you are condoning what's going on. But you're saying that you're not. You just here just kind of doing what you're supposed to do, but because of who I've called you to be, your presence means something. So now you have to take responsibility of what you put up with. You have to take responsibility of the environments that you allow yourself to stay in. You have to take responsibility for the things that you do and how they impact and how they impact people. Because whether you want the platforms or not, whether you want the responsibility or not, that's a part of who you are. And when you say yes to me and you say yes to the things that I have for you, when you say yes to the plan that I have to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you hope in the future, that means that you said yes to owning and becoming who you are. And it's time that you do it fully, and not just sometimes, but all the time. And for me personally, this is what God was dealing with me about, and I believe it's the same thing for a lot of you guys. And I'm going to get to the prophetic word. I'm not even going to sit too much into what I think or what's going on with me. I'm gonna get straight to what God said. But this is something, that a lesson that I had to really learn this week, about the importance of taking responsibility of becoming and walking fully all the time in who God called me to be, and the magnitude of what that is. Because sometimes I know, honestly, sometimes I just really don't want to. If I'm being frank, sometimes I really just want to be Tatum. I just want to be regular, I just want to not have to do the things that God has called me to do all the time, because it's heavy. You know what I mean? I have people who reach out to me and I'm listening to their problems, and it's my obligation to be there for them and to allow God to use me in their lives, because he's placed me there. If I go certain places, people are expecting certain things of me. And so all of those things are great. They're a part of my assignment, and I love it. I love to see people's lives impacted. But I have to be honest, me personally, sometimes I just want to be off. And I can, I have moments where I can do self-care, where I can rest and things like that. But God gave me a purpose. And that calling doesn't get turned off. I can't hang up. You know what I'm saying? I have an assignment. I have things to do. There's a huge assignment on my life. And I can't run from that when I don't feel like it anymore, So I wanted to just kind of just communicate. I believe with this show, it's a space where we can be honest about the journey. And I want to be honest with you guys about the things that I deal with, because I want you to understand, when you have these feelings, that it's okay to feel what you feel. It's okay, but stand on what you know. So I may feel like, man, I don't want this responsibility all the time, but I have to make sure that I always take it on, that I'm always being obedient, that I'm always in alignment with what he has for me, and I'm not trying to downplay who God says I am. Accepting the call means accepting the responsibility that comes along with it, and it means accepting that your life is no longer yours. And God knows the desires of my heart. He knows that sometimes I want to be off. And so he's blessed me with, I get to travel. So, even when I'm doing the tour, I get to kind of hang out in new cities. So I have times where I can recharge and things like that. But he had to put the mirror back up to my face so that I can start walking in it 24/7. Because it's a work that God wants to do through me. It's a work that he wants to do through you. And for as long as we're fighting with it, with different aspects of it, we're wasting time. We're wasting time, and the enemy is still out here killing, stealing, and destroying. So I wanted to be a little bit vulnerable about the way God had to put the mirror up to me this week and deal with me about not fully walking into who he called me to be. But I want to get into this word, because it's really not about what I went through this week. I just did that to be vulnerable so y'all can connect with me. But I think this word that God gave me to share with you is going to do exactly what it needs to do. So let's get straight to it. Let's take a break to pay some bills. I'm going to tell you about one more thing that happened this week where God put a mirror up to me. So I had to stop because we had an ad that needs to go there, and I'll add it later. Do a placeholder for it. Leave that gap there. So the last thing that happened this week where God had to put a mirror up, and I think a mirror isn't always just to show us who we are, but also to show us our areas and our weaknesses that we need to improve. And I believe that that's the biggest lesson that I got this week, and the thing that I was most grateful for is we always like to talk about God has this huge call, or he's going to do these amazing things, and he showed me all of this week. But it's going to be some times where he show you some things about yourself that's not so great, or some errors that you need to fix. So for me, I have this friend who God had put her on my heart for somebody to keep lifted in prayer. at all times. And so I will always pray for her, always pray for her. And I got mad at her. A situation happened. She didn't even know I was mad, which is funny. But a situation happened, and I was really upset with her. And I talked to my husband about it, and I talked to another close friend of mine, and I was kind of like, well, what should I do? I was talking to Tish about it, and y'all know Ayanla be getting me together. So I was like, this happened or whatever, so they were both like, well, are you going to say something? And I was like, man, no, I'll get over it. That was my thing. Like, I'll get over it. And so I actually did get over it. It wasn't like I said I was going to get over it and then I had these grudges or anything like that. So she and I ended up on the phone. We were talking about something totally different. I sent her a quick text about something and she ends up calling me. So we're on the phone. And as she's telling me about like what's going on and the topic that I texted her about, God began to deal with me. Like, he said the enemy used your feelings or that situation offending you and making you mad to get you off your post. Don't let how you feel take you away from the assignment. And I was like, wow. So she's literally talking. So I'm trying to hear her. And then God was speaking to me. And so after she finished everything she was saying, I was like, I have to apologize. And she was like, what? Because that's literally, we wasn't talking about this. So I was like, I have to apologize. And she was like, what happened? I was like, and I went back to the situation and was telling her about what happened, how it made me feel. She didn't even know that I was mad. And I was like, well, I do a really good job of like pushing things to the back burner if I feel like it's not that big of a deal. Even if I'm mad, I know I'll get over it. And so we talked about it, and I was like, but the reason I'm apologizing is not because of how I feel. I felt how I felt. I'm not sorry about that. But I'm apologizing because as you were talking, God was showing me that me being upset was taking me off my post. You're somebody that I pray for, somebody he always puts in my heart to keep lifted in prayer. And I allowed how I felt to take me off my post, so I have to apologize. And she was like, wow, I appreciate that or whatever. And the situation was over, but I had to take responsibility. And God put that mirror up to me, and I was like, wow, Tatum, this is definitely an area that you gotta watch. You have to be. This is why we talk about being sober and vigilant, because the enemy walks around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he can devour. So as the enemy is walking around, he sees me mad. So he like, oh, she's mad at this person. So let me let that linger a little bit so she's not on her face like she should be for that person. So I wanted to be transparent about that too, because we have to watch our emotions. We have to watch the things that are stopping us from pressing into what God has. So I'm going to stop rapping. I'm going to stop talking your ear off. I want to get straight into this prophetic word. So this word is, like I said, I was planning for this episode, and I was like, God, what do you want your people to know? I had the points I wanted to tell y'all about the things that happened this week and how he's put the mirror to my face about areas that I need to grow in or be cautious of. But I was like, but what do your people need? This show isn't about me. And he gave me this word. So hold on to your wigs, y'all. So I'm going to start reading. So just to be clear, this is what God said. This is no longer Tatum speaking. So he said, I want my people to move and become. Move from whatever person, place, thing that is out of season. If you think wearing white after Labor Day is out of season, why do you stay in a situation that I've already called you out of? Do you not trust me enough to do as I say? You tell others that you do, but your actions tell me otherwise. Move. And watch what I do with that act of faith. I will not be made a fool of. We have work to do, but I need your participation. Become. You already know who I called you to be, so become it. Stop dragging your feet. We have too much work to do to be. We have too much work to do to be held up here. Do you know I heard your prayers? Do you know I saw your tears? Even the men, because you're listening to this too. The men, you're listening to this too. But you're too afraid to speak out loud what's in your heart and what's in your mind. I know you're listening, my sons. I will give you beauty for your ashes, but you need to trust me, to move, to follow me, and to become who I've already said that you are. So I'm gonna leave that right there because that was a whole word. If you need to hear it again, just go ahead and rewind. But that was a lot. So I'm going to stop here again so we can pay some bills, and then I'm going to answer some questions because I can't even say nothing else after that. All right, break. Almost time for me to roll to get these nails done. I'm actually just going to go ahead and go since I got the heavy part out the way. So the next part is just answering questions. I'm going to stop here and I'm going to come back after I get my nails done, so I'm not late, and then I'll finish.